He was the engagement combined with the scientific research to work out what is the essence and what should be done in order to realize what Nuremberg put as an aim in front of everybody. He is an absolute integral character who lives for his jurisprudence. I don't know how he was before, but since I know him in '71, he does nothing else than spreading the idea, fighting for enlarging the idea, and enforcing the idea in international accepted trials according to the rule of law.
The Nuremberg trial was the trial in international criminal law. Without Nuremberg, we wouldn't have a movement towards an international criminal court, toward a permanent international criminal court. We wouldn't have the ICC probably. Benjamin Ferencz is one of the constants in the development of international criminal law. He published several books with a collection of documents at a time where nobody else was, or only a very few amount of people were dealing with international criminal law, on the crime of aggression, on the establishment of an international criminal court. He was the one who covered the negotiations on the definition of the crime of aggression in the 70s, when the General Assembly and some subcommittees of the General Assembly were dealing with the question. So he, as a person, as a professor, as a researcher, but also as an activist, he's really one that the field relied upon, and as part of the NGO community, but more as an individual who is interested in the subject and who wants the crime of aggression to be punishable and to have war as a crime, war making as a crime. He was really one of the persons that drove the development also. His personal feeling that it's important to move the young generation, as he would call it, and we love to have him here, particularly at the opening, because he brings these ideals and the engagement and the need for people to get engaged in the area. And he was, of course, also there. And it was a great experience for me. It was the first time that I was there at the UN, only observing, of course, the negotiation, but being part of the process. It was quite empowering. And having Ben Ferencz sitting next to me in the strategic meeting of the NGO coalition was quite something at the time.
And there were people who, again, I think were a pain in the neck. They had an idea, and they spent all their time pushing this idea. And just so important, I think, that they kept that idea alive. Now, they weren't the only ones, and there are lots of others involved, but I think that the sort of symbolism of people who really care and who push it is so important. And I suppose I think that's why Ben is such an important figure, because he has this incredible energy and charisma and an ability to get across to young people that this is important. And I think it's so important that he pushes the theme about passing the torch, and you're the next generation and you're going to have to do that, because I really, that's what the Bens of the world did for my generation, and I like to think there are enough of us who are encouraging young people to do it too. Look, he's a person with incredible energy, but it's energy he manages to pass off to those around him. You feel the energy and the warmth. Well, it's charisma, I think, was the word I used earlier. He has that. He's also just, well, he's a very decent human being. He's also very fit. Walk around New York with him sometime, he can walk you into the ground. I'm a pretty fit guy, but keeping up with Ben once he gets in full stride it isn't so easy. He works out at the gym pretty much every day. I think he has to be in such good shape. Boy, if I could be in his shape 20 years from now, it'd be wonderful.
Ben Ferencz was really the Nuremberg principles incarnated into a human being. He motivated generations like mine to become active or to confirm our commitment and never give up. That was always his message. I remember when I met him the first time at the margins of the ad hoc committee concerning the International Criminal Court, 1995. And his message was, do not give up, never give up, do never allow anyone to make you think that you will give up. I was a student following the negotiations on the creation of the ICC, with leading the delegation of the European Law Students Association, ELSA. And I was alone. I was starting something completely new We didn't do those types of things back in the mid-90s. And I was searching eagerly for professors, academics, experts, leaders to talk to myself and to the other students coming from Europe to New York, to give them a message, to confirm the reasons why we were there. And the best person was Ben. Ben was available for 10 minutes. I was asking him, please come and meet our group of students during lunch for 10 minutes. And then he prolonged his staying for 150 minutes, you know, almost 2 hours, talking to each of every delegation that we were bringing to New York. And you may find them now as prosecutors or judges or lawyers or academics or practitioners or from Norway to Portugal to Greece to Russia, all these law students that received the inspiration from Ben. We were the largest delegation in the Rome Conference. We accredited 94 students. And we were the largest single NGO and even delegation. We were more than the American delegation at the Rome Conference. But I see a great friend, a man always transparent and honest about his purpose. His commitment is unique. His determination is an inspiration for all of us, and he never whenever he expresses an opinion, it's based on fact. So that's another lecture that he gave us, that you can have even radical opinions, very critical opinions, as long as you base them on arguments that are solid, based on fact, and an understanding of the law that, as dynamic as it may be, however, it's based on fundamental principles of the law. And I think Ben can inspire also political action, but he remains, for me as a lawyer, a great legal motivator, because he finds in the law, in the principles of the law, the main driving force of his speeches.
So Ben Ferencz is probably the bearer of this message for most of the time, and he's also committed to it every day in his life. So if you remember his appearance in Rome in 1998, when the Rome Statute was approved by the International Conference, and you remember his happy face when finally the last vote was done. Or if you remember him in The Hague, when the Americans did not participate in the tribunal of The Hague, but Ben Ferencz hissed the American flag to show that the Americans should be there, although they weren't. So these are moments where you can see his commitment totally. And he does it almost on a daily basis. It is the task of his life to spread this great humanistic message of Nuremberg that justice is for everybody, and not only for the weak, but also for the powerful. Ben Ferencz is physically a very small guy, and he likes to joke around that, but there are films even where he appears behind the pulpit during the process of against the Einsatzgruppen in Nuremberg, and he hardly reaches up to the peak of the pulpit. But in reality, his heart is so great, and he's a fighter, has been a fighter all his life, and he never gives up, and he insists on his point of view, and that makes him a very impressive and joyful personality. He always is good for a joke, and at the same time he is so serious with what he feels is the message he has given to this world.
Well, Ben Ferencz, in several ways, symbolizes in his personality, even the development of international criminal law. He was here when it was first executed in one of the follow-up trials, having experienced the Second World War as a soldier, and now being part of this dealing with the past issue, coming to terms with these atrocious crimes. And the rest of his life he spent canvassing for this idea of which was born in Nuremberg, to end impunity. And he committed his entire life to this, and with all his energy that he has, and he put into this topic, into this issue, it's most impressive. And he had a vital and maybe even crucial role in the development of the international criminal law and on the path to the establishing of a permanent international criminal court. And I was most impressed by his lively way to communicate, his straightforward sort of way to formulate his ideas, and his energy and his passion behind what he was saying. I was most impressed, and I met him several times since then, be it here in Nuremberg, because he's a frequent visitor, or in the United States at some occasions of conferences and so forth. And he doesn't seem to change. I mean, it's been now 8 years that I know him. He's always the same. He's always energetic. He's always funny in what he's saying. And this is what I think people like about him, and why he's so successful in promoting his ideas, because he's such a lovely person.
The first time I met Benjamin Ferencz was in 1987 in New York. In those days, I was an Argentinian prosecutor. I had to prosecute 1,500 persons. And of course, I cannot do it. And the criminal law gave me no rule how to define who should be prosecuted or not. Then I met Benjamin Ferencz, and I said, "Oh, Mr. Ferencz, you have a great experience. How you did in Nuremberg? You have evidence against many people." And I said, "Oh, German people are so organized, you have evidence against thousands." And what you did? We prosecuted 22. Oh, 22. I was okay, this guy will help me because he will give me the rule to make a distinction between 22 and thousands. I said, why 22? And he said, okay, the courtroom at Nuremberg had 22 chairs, so we did 22. So basically there was no rules, basically it was a discretion of the prosecutor. And that for me was a great lesson. I managed with this information, I managed not just my work in Argentina. After, when I was appointed the SEC prosecutor, I always remember Ben telling me, be clear, you can prosecute few people like you do, so select well your cases. That for me was the influence of Ben on me was great. Ben is lovely, he's so persistent, he has a great humor, but below the great humor is a very tough man, so brilliant, doing what he wants to do. I invite him to be the prosecutor in the closing argument of my first case in the SEC. And it was a mess, because we discussed, he had to make 5-minute presentation, and it was a mess discussing with him. No, it's not to say, so it was a big discussion, but he's so brilliant, he's 93, so brilliant, the best lawyer I never met.
Ben is a wonderful, stubborn, energetic fighter who's been able, I've known him when I was in law school, so it goes back to almost 50 years. And he's still the same Ben with the same energy and commitment and belief that it's important. So I think he's a very special person. If one will to build monuments to those who are responsible for the International Criminal Court, Ben would be one of those who would receive one. What is so wonderful about him is that at his age he still has the same drive and commitment that I don't think very many people at that age would have. And he's so proud of the fact that he's old as he is, which is also nice to see. But he's just a wonderful person. They don't come all that often.
Ben Ferencz hat durch sein Lebenswerk und durch seine Überzeugungskraft und durch seine Fähigkeit, andere Menschen zu motivieren, die Rolle eines Antreibers, eines Motivators gespielt, der immer wieder Delegierten aus der ganzen Welt Hoffnung und Mut gegeben hat und immer wieder die Botschaft hier verkündet hat, ich zitiere ihn jetzt, never give up, niemals aufgeben, wer aufgibt, hat schon verloren. Ich erlebe ihn als einen warmherzigen Menschen, Das ist erstaunlich nach allem, was er gesehen hat im Leben. Ich erlebe ihn als einen Menschen, der an den Fortschritt und auch an die Fähigkeit der Menschen glaubt, Lehren aus der Vergangenheit zu ziehen. Und ich erlebe ihn als einen, der mit diesen beiden wesentlichen Botschaften, Warmherzigkeit, Menschlichkeit und Glauben an den Menschen, viele andere motivieren und ermutigen kann. Der Kern unserer Freundschaft ist die gemeinsame Überzeugung, dass Menschen gegen Willkür und Ohnmacht und Gewalt und aggressive Gewalt besser geschützt werden müssen. Wir teilen diese Überzeugung. Wir teilen auch die Überzeugung, dass niemand über dem Gesetz steht. Und der Kern unserer Freundschaft beruht darauf, dass wir sozusagen auf der gleichen Wellenlinie ticken und dass wir uns verstehen, fast ohne Worte. Ich bin der Auffassung, dass in 50 Jahren, wenn in der Zwischenzeit sehr, sehr viele bedeutende Politiker existiert haben und wieder verschwunden sind, der Name Ben Ferencz immer noch mit großen Buchstaben an der Wand der Geschichte stehen wird.
We're all delighted to be here. We will all be working very hard to fine-tune our thinking in terms of how best Nuremberg can continue to serve the international community as a location and as an inspiration so that we can rid ourselves of the worst excesses of humankind that find their clearest expression in war. And perhaps the greatest proponent of this thinking is Ben Ferencz, who himself was chief prosecutor and conducted the Einsatzgruppen trial, number 10 here in this courtroom. And I think if we can one day honor him by making war unthinkable, then the true legacy of Nuremberg would be felt.
Ben was always a figure that stood out in many different ways. He was always, in a way, the most eloquent, the most fearless, the most outspoken, the most determined advocate everybody who had anything to do with the ICC knew Ben.
First of all, I just want to say this, that people like Ben Ferencz are role models for, those of us who continue to be concerned, who continue to want to have a role to play in giving voice to the voiceless, but also in fighting for accountability for these massive crimes. He is a role model, and we continue to look up to them, to people like him, to also play our own role for those who will also, look up to us. I believe one person alone really can make a big difference in this, and one should never think that because I'm only one person, I cannot make any difference. And I think one can identify a lot men like that in Ben Ferencz. As you have seen, for quite a number of years now, we're talking about over 60 years, in fact 70 years plus, he has been tirelessly, working, doing the everyday ordinary things, but still significantly contributing to the development of international criminal law. And he's doing this through his work, he's doing this through the lectures that he holds, through his publications. He writes all the time. You know, he shows great interest in the work that this institution now, which is the ICC, you know, as the permanent international criminal court, he has shown great interest. He has made lots of contributions, as you know, to the creation of this court, but also to the work of this court. And I have already cited the fact that 2 years ago, Benjamin Ferencz was with us in court, you know, arguing, making closing remarks in the Lubanga. So I think one must never think that just because I'm an ordinary person, you know, I'm not able to do anything, I cannot make a difference. I think in actual fact, it is the ordinary people who are making a difference, who can lead, you know, who can inspire people to follow them, you know, who can inspire others to come together and make changes. Benjamin Ferencz is a man of conviction, a principled man, an indefatigable fighter against impunity and for the rights of others, for the rights of the victims of massive crimes. He has used his energy, he has used his knowledge, he has used his experience over the years to advance a very important cause, a global cause actually, and that is the cause of international criminal law and international criminal justice. I think that Ben has established himself as a legendary figure, a person that has shown no deviation whatsoever from the very beginning to the conviction, to what he believed, you know, to the fact that the victims of these massive atrocities must have justice. You know, he is also a very passionate man about, and I think this is what is one of those attributes that make him stick to the cause. He's not only doing it, but he's passionate about it, and he's committed to it. He's a man very easy to work with. You know, I have had the honor, I have had the privilege to work with him. And he makes even the most complex situations, most complex cases, you know, seem very easy. In fact, he tries as much as possible to put it across in the most simplistic and even sometimes humorous way, you know, of doing it. Of course, the seriousness of the situation is never lost to him, you know, but he impacts you in that way. He makes you want to do what he's doing. You know, he's really a role model that, as I said, we look up to him. You know, we want to copy his commitment. You know, we have it already, but, you know, we see the way that he expresses it with ease. You know, he shows it, he never deviates, and this is, I think, something very worthy to emulate from Ben Ferencz.